Hello, hello, and welcome to the Business of Healing podcast. I'm so happy to be with you today. In this podcast, I help people who are healers, mental health professionals, and people who just have mission driven brands build a business and sustain a business that they love that is also helping people at the same time. I center around business, around belief, and around our personal boundaries. And so if that is you, feel free to stay because I give a behind the scenes look at how I build this brand, how I build this business, how I help the clients that I love help them make real change in their life and what it takes to get there. So, today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about how being a healer has gradually changed me into being an introvert, what that means for me, for my health, for the business of healing, and the adjustments that I've made on the other side of it. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, so I have been in the healing profession since 2009. So, a licensed therapist since 2016, coaching and podcasting since 2015, 2016, and I've been active the whole time. And I have always been an extrovert in the background, tested as an ESFJ, and just always got my energy from being around people, being outside, being in the know. I've always had a diversity of friends, diversity of interests, travel, and everything else. And even in my darkest times or my most stressful times, somehow being around other people, connecting to people, doing my group calls as a healing professional were the things that were energizing me and making me feel better no matter what was going on. And so a lot of my personal life, a lot of my business was built around that, about being out, touching people, connecting to them. And I would say, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you've seen the evolution of my growth, of my brand, how things have ebbed and flowed over the years. But one thing that stayed consistent was constantly being out there and touching people. So whether or not it was in my main coaching program, the Love Addiction Recovery School, and doing consistent weekly or bi-weekly group calls, always doing workshops, doing retreats, doing something during COVID. When COVID first started, my way of giving back was doing Saturday night lives, where every Saturday I would go live because I'm like, we need to get out, we need to connect, we need to build community. And those were the things that really rejuvenated me and felt pleasurable. And that's one of the things that I'm going to like a little subtle foreshadowing about some tips that you can take when it comes to evolving and growing as a person in your business because you don't need to stay stuck is chasing what feels good. Because especially if you're a solopreneur or if the business in some capacity revolves around you, you need to protect yourself. You need to be honest and genuine with what your capacity is and where you can show up. So that is how I built the business. But over the last several years, what I was saying about people who've seen the trajectory, I've gone through several seasons of burnout. The first burnout was imposed by, yes, being a perfectionist, but I had some real health issues that were going on that were impacting my ability to show up. So there was a need to take a step back or a need to readjust how things are going. The second wave of burnout was because I was overinvested in how my clients were showing up, with how the business was showing up. It was a lot of mindset issues and a lot of overworking that came from there. So I needed to readjust there. Recently, for the last year or so, what I teach about is helping people move from being love addicted to love balance, from love avoidance to love available. So knowing that love avoidance is the ability to push people away very systematically. And for some of us who are very high functioning, the ability to do so and make it present as appropriate. Let's make it present as if, yeah, you're just taking care of yourself and you're just using your boundaries, but really you are self isolating and you are feeding the same negative pattern that's got you into relationships that feel unsatisfactory because you want connection, you want intimacy, but you're doing things that are pushing it away. So that's always been on the forefront because of my own recovery from love addiction and love avoidance and because of what I teach. And so for a long time, I was pushing against this part of me that felt the need to withdraw and need to spend time by myself to rejuvenate. It just felt like it was wrong and it felt like it was problematic and it felt like it was just symptoms of something deeper. So I would take breaks, not to say I wouldn't take breaks and I wouldn't pull back, but it came from a place of, well, let me heal. Let me like feed myself, let me feed my soul so that I can come back out and return back to the person I used to be. So I could start doing weekly group calls every night again, so that I could start doing events again, so that I could start hanging out with people. And when I got invited to go out, that I could go out and not feel overwhelmed by it so that I could have deep conversations with people that lasted hours and feel sustained by it versus feeling like I needed to recover from it, right? So I did that for a while. And then finally, at the end of last year, maybe near the beginning of this year, I kind of leaned more into, okay, whatever is going on, the more I try to push myself to be around people, to talk to people, to show up, it feels like something is not working and it feels like I am feeling worse. Yeah, seeing people that I loved, that I cared about, yes, showing up for my clients. There was definitely some benefits to it, but at the same time, the same euphoria and dopamine and kind of like, I'm so happy I did that. Energy that would usually be there before wasn't there. It was more like, okay, I checked that off the list. I showed up. I did what I was supposed to do. And maybe the habit of showing up is going to kick in and I'm going to feel replenished. And it didn't happen. So at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I really leaned into actually, I don't have capacity for anyone, for anything. And I would tell people that. And I was honest about that. I didn't, at first, I would just kind of try to push some things away until like a moment that felt right. And so when that moment didn't happen, I started to tell people that I needed to do so. At the beginning of this year, I took a very quiet sabbatical. I didn't announce it to anyone. I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't really prep anyone for it. I put my main podcast, the Black Girl Tale podcast, on an archive mode where I had series of previous episodes that had already been published come out. And then when that was done and I still wasn't ready, I didn't come back to the podcast for a while. For my clients in the background, my main program, again, the Love Addiction Recovery School, I stopped promoting it because I was like, I need to phase out this current cohort. I need to see them to completion. But right now, it was all that I could do to take care of myself, take care of my nervous system, and be the best self that I could behind the scenes, focus on taking care of my son, and just see what was needed for me in this season. So I did that for maybe about 8 to 9 months. And what used to be draining to me before, actually, I started to get very excited about. I started to get very excited about doing my group calls again. I started to be very excited about connecting to other people. I started to be very excited about seeing what was going on with people. However, what was different is I knew that the reason that I felt this way was because I took space and time away. I knew just somehow that this wasn't something that was temporary and something that was like, here's my healing detox, but that something in me has shifted. And my partner reflected it back to me, something that probably other people had seen, but it took me a while to actually believe it because it was so different than how I was before. And he was like, Sheena, you're an introvert that's good at talking with people. And I was like, I'm an introvert? I am an introvert. Like when I now, even I still have hobbies. I love to Lindy Hop, which is a type of swing dancing. I love playing pickleball. I have things that get me outside and get me around people. But when I tell you, I'm there for like a couple hours and then I am running home. I'm running home to my bed. I'm running home to like breathe. I'm running home just to look at the wall and recover. I have learned that in my client work, I have the most amazing women that I get to serve. But like I said, being on private calls, being on group calls, it felt like the highest high that I could ever have every time I finished those calls. And for a long time, it stopped being that way. I would always feel complete after a group calls. I would always feel like I've given so much, but I needed lots of time to just lay down, look at the wall, do nothing, have nobody talk to me. I would strategically try to schedule things at times that there was nothing else behind it that would require me to show up. So whether or not it was a nail appointment, whether or not it was something else, I just needed space to just do nothing and replenish. And I found that my nervous system had changed, or at least my awareness around the nervous system had changed, that I was paying more attention to it. I think also there is a lot of spiritual components that happen with this too. The work that I do, And I think the work that a lot of us do, almost maybe all of us do as healers. And for those of you who've been a part of my business of healing world in the past, I actually started this podcast a couple years ago and took a break. I've talked about how there are so many professions that aren't technically healers on the outside, but you absolutely are doing healing work, whether or not you're a beautician, whether or not you are a counselor or a caseworker, whether or not you are a teacher, you are crafting and you're pouring into and you're facilitating the lives and the growth of other people. You're listening to their stories, you're holding space for them. That's absolutely healing work. And so when you are in a healing profession, you are giving, you are showing up. There's an energy exchange. And if I didn't have good energy and spiritual practices on the background, that spiritual hygiene on the background, yeah, it makes sense that I am feeling depleted at the end of these energetic exchanges, at the end of me showing up and holding trauma for people. And so I needed to be more discriminate around what that looked like for me. So, with this new awareness, I said, okay, it's time for me to lean into the ways that I have evolved. And so, I think right now, I don't think I'm the only person that the last couple of years, what used to work for you doesn't work for you anymore. The ways that you should show up in your friendships, the ways that you should show up in your job, the ways you should show up with your kids, the ways you show up with your partner, the ways that you show up in your own personal time, it has changed. You want something more, or you want something different, or you want something less. And I think now's the time for us to not try to lean into trying to get things to be back how they used to be, but to look at what's now, because what's now is in our best interest. Now is for our good. What's here now is our most highest level self of who we're supposed to be. There's nothing problematic or wrong with it. And leaning more into taking care of ourselves and whatever that looks like now is the right step. So, with that said, I'm going to talk about 3 ways that I've leaned into the ways that I have evolved right now when it comes to my business and showing up as a healer, showing up as a professional. And you can take what applies for you, what doesn't. All of you may not be able to relate to the fact that you are now an introvert and your capacity for people and for interactions is extremely less. And that's okay. Some of you may want more community. You may need more connections with other people. You have more of a desire to connect and to bring people together and lean into that. If you have always been someone who's like, I am so like when COVID happened, you're like, thank goodness I get to be by myself and it is socially acceptable and no one's bothering me. And now when you're looking around, like maybe even with the state of where things are, you are more focused on building your found family, your focused family now. Lean into that. You may have gone from being someone who got a lot of joy from being by yourselves to like seeing where things are now. You are activated to create something big and beautiful and connected. And so lean into that. That is okay. So that is actually my first thing that I've done, my first tip, my first suggestion, my first step that I would say is allow yourself to grow and evolve without the judgment, without the needing to make something be what it used to be, because we are all in a stage of evolution and growth, and that is okay and that is beautiful. I've already said a lot about that in the intro or in the overview of this video, so I'm not going to talk more about that. I'm just going to go into the second thing that I am doing as a healing professional, or that I have done as a healing professional, is changing my offerings or adjusting my offering. So one of the things that I'm working on in the background is writing books. I've written actually a couple of texts. I published one book called How to Pick Partners for Love Addicts last year, where it helps people identify the 40 characteristics of what makes someone available and what makes someone unavailable. It is unique because there are a lot of suggestions and tips and things that talk about look for someone who's kind and someone who has integrity. But as far as the nitty gritty, these are the things that are absolutely dangerous in every single relationship that you have. And these are things that are relationship destroying. And these are the things that if this is in any relationship that you have, colleague, partner, friendship, family member, these are the things that are signs of safety and that is workable. And in my world of women who are constantly being surprised and thrown off by people, relationships, and situations that seem promising and that they have a lot of hope for, but it ends up just hurting them in the end, they need something They needed something that was objective and clear. So that was that book. And that's available on Amazon or your favorite bookseller. But there's another book called The No Contact Guide for Love Addicts that I've been working on for the last couple of years. And so I've learned that my energy level, if I'm giving constantly in my programs and my workshops and these other places, what used to be my capacity, like I have my mic, so I can't really show you, but let's say that this is my jar of energy capacity. For those of you listening online, just imagine me having a cup, imaginary cup in my hand. If this was my energy capacity before, this is my energy capacity now. And so it's more conservative. And so it's still there, but I need more time to replenish and to restore outside of what I did before. And so giving and showing up in my one-on-one services and my group calls takes a lot, which doesn't leave me a lot of energy to write because writing takes just as much. Putting everything that I know, I feel, the exchange of writing all out for me takes a lot of concentration, and it's almost as if I am talking with people while I am reading. And so that book has been on the pre-order list for so long, and I need to get that out there. So for me, I'm shifting the way that I am showing up. I'm rebalancing how often I do group work, when I'm going to do group work. Instead of it being available all year round, is there going to be certain cohorts that is actually limited? Because I've had cohorts before, but it was like a rolling cohort basis. Is it going to be more concentrated so that I can focus on doing YouTube videos, so that I can focus on doing podcasts? That's going to be the way that I show up, maybe. I'm actually readjusting my main group program right now to be restructured into what I'm calling the BGH method, which is the Black Girls Heal method. It's also going to stand for Balanced, Grounded, and Healed, where I'm going to take what happens in my main group coaching program and make it in a more accelerated, smaller form, but will still help women in the same way. So I'm doing a lot of ways. I'm doing a lot of things to figure out how do I have the same impact with people, but respects where I am as a provider, as a service provider, because what I don't want to happen that I've seen happen the last couple of years by me not being attuned to how I've grown and evolved is that I've needed to take all these micro, which ended up to be a macro break. And I don't want there to be any interruptions to that. And I don't want me to be on the negative end of that receiving because I'm so focused on taking care of other people to now where I'm burnt out altogether. Which leads to the last thing that I am doing, have done, step to adjust for how I've evolved, which is to prioritize self-care that looks selfish. Prioritize self-care that looks selfish. So I mentioned that one of the things that I had to do was pull back from people, pull back from relationships, pull back from showing up. And when it first started, I felt so apologetic about it. I felt like I was being a bad person. I was being a bad friend. I was being a bad whatever. And what I realized is what I just said before. If I'm not okay, then I cannot show up in relationships and be my best self as well. And also by me focusing and trying to see, trying to measure out how much I took care of myself and how much I showed up based on what I thought other people's perceptions and opinions were, was not fair to me. And it was not healing to me. And actually, it was the opposite of what I was trying to do. I was trying to be self accountable. I was trying to be mature. I was trying to push myself to be in my highest level self. But I was actually still appeasing people by showing up at moments and times that it was draining for me. Now, again, I know that there are some people who are going to be listening to this who are truly avoidant, and you are finding that it is causing problems in your relationships and you don't want it to be that way. And so you need to look at this from what is actually in the best interest for you. Does this sound like more of the same problems that have been keeping you stuck? Or is this actually an evolution? For me, it's been an evolution. For me, it was I am a former extrovert, now introvert. I think I've talked about this actually a couple times on my main podcast, the Black Girls Heal podcast, and how I've tested every time I'll take, for example, the Myers-Briggs that tests extroversion versus introversion. I would still show up as an extrovert. Now, it seemed like it was like gradually getting closer to introversion, but I was like, I'm still an extrovert. Y'all, now Now when I read those descriptors and now when I'm like, where do you find fulfillment? I'm like, your girl is an introvert and this is not a phase. Or at least it doesn't feel like a phase. Who knows? We're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. Who knows where I'll be many years from now once I feel like I have shown up in the way that I want to, finishing not only the no contact book, but there are several other books that I have on the pipeline that I can't wait to get out for y'all. The ways that I want to show up in a new capacity in this community, once that starts getting out there, that is going to be so replenishing for me. Our business mentorship, that's going to take energy in a different way. People have been asking me for consultation and business advice for a long time. And starting this January, I'm going to be starting a business mentorship series. Now, it will be in a paid container, just to be clear, because I will be giving out every single thing behind my operations, behind my marketing, behind how I've created all my products, my courses, my books, my events, IP, the legal things, my SEs, all the functioning, like everything I'm giving to my soon to be coaching clients and mentees when it comes to business. And that's going to take a lot of capacity. Then eventually putting all this into my professional certification. So for people who want to help other people who struggle with love addiction, childhood trauma, I've created a very unique system and way of showing up. So other therapists and other coaches who want to learn that method, get certified in it, and use that to teach other people. And for us to have a directory, because I can't help every single person, especially with me pulling back. Even before that, I was like, I need to have a way so that I can create something so that it multiplies and so that it helps other people. So that will hopefully be coming next fall. So I'm really excited with the ways that me stepping back in some ways is helping me step forward in others. And I want the same for all of y'all. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully you can apply this to whatever season, wherever it is that you're showing up in your life right now, to have the best impact and mission, whether or not it's at home, in your salon, in your office, or your internet platform. Know that your growth is needed and it's the best for everyone. So that's it for now. If you would like to know more about my business mentorship series, you can go ahead and check out the link in the comments below to either be added to the waitlist or to join if the doors are now open. But yeah, that's it. I'm sending you all so much love, and I'll see you in the next episode.